welcome back to another episode of I Am I. So today, in this beautiful freezing ass holiday season, I want to talk about the interconnectedness of everything. And so even if we don't have a logical understanding of this, and if it's just us working into a psychological understanding of it, bottom line is, if you recognize the connection in everybody, right, it just brings us into a space of charity and opening up. But if you really want to get into it, and really the whole point is that for you personally, that is a more productive way to operate. That is a more productive emotional state of being, right, for you. So the separation is apparent. Separation is easy. We know that right off the bat. We can tell that we're separate. We can see in this mind of duality, in this world of duality, with this mind that operates in the world of duality, that we are all separate. So the interconnectedness is a more difficult thing to understand and to see, right? But really, there's a thing. Let's start with the Fibonacci sequence, right? The Fibonacci sequence is a mathematical sequence, and the numbers double. So it's or it's not, it's, I'm sorry, it's the numbers, you add the number before it and that next number to get the next number, right? So we start from 0, 0 and 1, and then from 0 and 1 you get 2, 2 plus 1 equals 3, 3 plus 2 equals 5, 5 plus 3 equals 8, 8 plus 5 is 13, and so on and so on and so on, right? And the ratio formed by this, which is 1.618, right, is a ratio that is amazingly present in so many places. It's called the golden ratio, and it's present in so many places in nature, right? It's in the dimensions of the human body. It's the proportions of the human body. It's in the flight pattern of a hawk, right? Oh, he's watching me like a hawk. Random movie quotes. But it's in flight patterns of a hawk. It's in the patterns of the way broccoli stalks grow. It's everywhere, right? It's amazing. When you, okay, this is, I gotta explain this more, but it's so exciting to me. It thrills me that when you take a triangle and you have it descend in upon itself by that ratio, right? So that the sides of the triangle are equal to those ratios. And if you connect the dots inward, right, the triangle descends inward on itself by that ratio. And if you start to connect the dots around, it creates a spiral. And it's the spiral of creation, this golden ratio. And that spiral is what's present in things like the flight patterns of a hawk. It's what's present in an atom. It's what's present in the galaxy. It's what's present in all these places in nature, that it's really unfucking believable to recognize that the proportion that we are based upon is the same proportion in the flight pattern of a hawk, which seems completely random and separate, right? Let alone the way you operate and somebody from another culture operates, or the way you operate and somebody in your family operates, right? So it's amazing to start to see these kinds of connections. And then on other levels like that, we have the very fact that the breath that we share, right? If we say that, they talk about us being all made of stardust, right? Where the fuck do we really come from in the first place? Where was this first human being made out of, right? Or so if we all come from stardust, if we're coming from the earth, then we're made of the same stuff, the same ratio of things in the earth, or the same elements, right? Earth, air, fire, water, ether, and all these elements are in us, and in the same ratios of the earth, and in human beings across the fucking planet. It's like, just start to see the connections in people. Now again, this is where I say the separation is obvious. We don't need to work for that separation, but it doesn't mean that the separation's not there. That's why it's not black and white, right? So this doesn't mean, because we have to understand our own personal responsibility for our emotions and this being that we are operating. But in that, how can we step out into the world with a sense of connection, right? Moving from a sense of connection, but understanding that other people are not going to necessarily see that connection. So that how do we operate in a space within ourselves to bring this system, this mechanism that we are operating, into a higher state of understanding, into a higher state of connection and beauty and love, even though other people may not. So if you ask me, that moves into a space of like what Bruce Lee is talking about fighting without fighting, right? I always talk about that, or the actionless action, is that the connection is not just necessarily in the physical. We can talk about it in the physical, like we're all made of the same stardust, or we're breathing the same air, the same oxygen, and the same elements are all recycled out, and we're all sharing the same shit, right? But on a deeper level, if we're not even talking about, so that's just in the physical, but on the deeper, beyond the physical, then that space that is the actual connection of all of us, even if it is just a psychological understanding, that's what brings us into being able to fight without fighting. So that's where Bruce Lee has a sense of ease and knocks somebody down. That's where we have to take those difficult steps in life, right, to set healthy boundaries from that space of care and love for ourselves and that connection on deeper levels, but understanding that not everyone's going to see that. So you might be met with violence. You might be met with, great spirits often encounter violent opposition from mediocre minds. It's one of my favorite quotes ever. I'll say it again. Great spirits often encounter violent opposition from mediocre minds. Einstein. It's fucking fantastic, right? So understand that truth of the singularity of that connection with everyone, they're not anywhere near remotely capable of seeing that. So don't allow yourself to stoop down into that place of separation and division. That space of separation and division is the place that brings us to hell. That is a separation, is putting it in hell, right? When you start to recognize connection and love, right, and reach out with love and connection. And this is where all this stuff starts to come together, right? I've had 176 videos over the last few years that are showing these different principles. There's not just one, right? And this is just my teaching, is my experience and what I'm learning and continue to work with. And as I continue to do this, as I move into that singularity and that space within myself, I understand how to take more action in this world from a space of love and connection. And I can be in that space of love and connection when someone else is not. And that is tremendously powerful. That takes a tremendous amount of work, while still defending myself need be. I'm not talking about putting yourself into harm's way entirely, but recognizing, the more you recognize you're safe, the more you can recognize how to move into these spaces in a safe space and in a safe way. So whether it be emotionally or actually even physically, if you're really working on the front lines in whatever way, it's understanding how to keep this connection within yourself, but taking the action that needs to be done in this sense of separation with the sense of inclusion in mind. And that is that actionless action. That is that fighting without fighting. That is that making sure that we stay in that inclusion, but do what must be done in this world, in this operation. In Lakesh Lakin, I am you, you are me. Namaste. No man is an island. Ask not for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee.
What? Too much?